And it says this hangout on air is live. And I have the live buttons going on. So I'm going to assume we're live right now. Okay, you guys ready for this?
Nope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you guys have the chat window opened up? I don't know if it's the chat for the YouTube thing or if it's the chat with just us. So people could be talking in the chat room and I would have no idea.
Yeah, that's some sort of separate window you have to somehow get out of YouTube, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to do any of that nonsense.
No.
We'll figure it out later. Okay.
Keep it simple for me, please.
All right. You guys ready?
My brain is done for today.
Yeah. Where's my water before we start?
Yeah. All right, Norm. Take us home.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This is the point where we're going to talk about our fantastic sponsor, GameSurplus.com. They basically, Ryan, they've been with us since the beginning, haven't they?
Right from the beginning. Carmen's been absolutely amazing. Fantastic customer service. Carmen
and Elaine, the one thing I noticed about that company is it's the company that treats you like family because you're family.
Oh, absolutely. And if you haven't find something that's harder to find, Carmen can hunt it down.
Oh, he's a sleuth. I love it. So, GameSurplus.com, if you're interested in, anything that is interesting. That was such a bad shtick.
If you like stuff.
If you like cardboard.
Go to GameSurplus.com.
Yeah. GameSurplus.com. All right. So, hey there. This is season 2, episode 1. And we're trying to keep it together before we even start. Of Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Luke.
And on today's episode, surprise, we have a surprise for you guys. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss the games.
I don't know if you mentioned we had a surprise.
We have a surprise. We're going to discuss the games we played on our summer hiatus, and we're going to talk about our new season resolutions. Cutting to Cardboard Cohorts. This is the phase where in our podcast we talk about what is a cardboard cohort. Cool. See, Joe, I can understand now why Joe gets all tongue-tied because I'm trying to watch myself say it.
That's your crazy alliterations.
Oh, yeah. What was I thinking? Too much espresso. So last season I came up with this idea of cardboard cohorts because Good Board Ugly, we kind of got it in contact with each other on Twitter. And that led to a really good supportive relationship. And Ryan, you and I were trying to get this off the ground for, a year before we actually did it, right?
I think it's closer to 2 years.
Oh, yeah. It was, we'd have an idea and then we drop. We have an idea and then we change it. We have another idea and we change it. And
that sounds really cool. Come back to me in 6 months.
Yeah. I got to go correct essays. So it took somebody from another country to just give that motivation and encouragement and support, and it clicked in my head going, I've never met you face to face, but thank you for the encouragement, thank you for the support. You have allowed me or motivated me to accomplish something that I thought it's always easy to say, I don't have the time, or I'm too busy, right? I'm so grateful. Yeah. So, Ryan, from the season of the podcast that we accomplished last year, it was a short season, but what was your perspective on this idea of cardboard cohorts?
I thought it was amazing. Like, just drawing this inspiration from some other content creators, making us step out of our comfort zone, actually being able to put ourselves out there, where it even to the point that I even did a guest spot on the long view.
That's right.
what do we even talk? Alhambra. I talked about Alhambra, a game that I absolutely adore and love, and have not played in a very long time, but still love and adore it. Just being able to go out there. We couldn't have done it without these other awesome content creators, and Joe and the guys at the Good Board and the Ugly. They're like amazing people.
I think that was creating that was my way of saying thank you to them for allowing us to feel part of a community that we thought we were distanced from. And I mean, with social media, there is no distance anymore. I mean, you're at the end of a tweet, you're at the end of a text, regardless of the physical distance. So I in my head, I thought I got to do something, action, right? And you could talk all you want, but to do something to show, the importance of someone else's efforts, I that was my motivation. But I'm insane.
So Norm, what are we doing this season to further expand this cardboard cohort idea?
Oh, and he's been sitting so quiet and just vibrating. We're going to come up with this idea of bringing in this cohort thing. We're going to bring in a cohort that we discovered in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think it's as we said, season 2 is going to be the expansion season, and expansion packs. Yeah. I don't want to say, what is it? Blister packs, because that means I feel like I have a skin condition or something.
Booster packs. They're called
boosters. Okay.
They make us a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But Luke is from what's the Twitter handle you like to go by?
Hattanooga.
Okay. Tell us what this Hattanooga thing is about. I want you to pump up your own tires, man.
First, I should make the plug that there's this hilarious connection that we have, that we live in the same city, and yet, like you were saying.
Oh, I think we looped on a connection.
Oh,
we did.
Speaking about connections, am I back?
Are you back now? Okay.
There we go.
I hope so.
There we go.
So, I was just saying the city, and yet it took some distance in terms of the sort of growing media around board games to actually connect us here in the city more in Saskatoon.
Yeah, that.
So I think our initial connection was the fact.
Oh,
that was from Saskatoon.
We got an intermittent signal from Luke.
Okay, I'm gonna work on this. I'll be right back. How about you guys hit something, then I'm gonna just make sure that my connection's really solid.
Okay. Well, we'll transition to the next segment. Okay, welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture, Season 2, Episode 1. We have plenty of surprises this episode. We're going to follow a different format. Usually, Ryan and I will talk about a game and we'll break it down in our own perspective from, the educator perspective. But this show, Ryan, what's the first thing we're going to talk about? You tell us.
Well, how about we just go about just in our little hiatus here, we've probably played a buttload of games and everything. Maybe we just highlight some of the ones that we really enjoyed over the past couple months.
The hiatus. Oh,
the hiatus.
I miss
the
hiatus. I miss. It was a good break, though. I mean, we both because we both teach. It's basically 2 months and off the radar. It was. I mean, I think I saw you.
Well,
maybe
I get.
2 times.
Yeah, I take off to the lake with my family for a little while and everything, so we kind of get some smaller games in like that and everything. And we never got to actually game together. Actually, I don't think at all over the past couple months.
Yeah, maybe like once. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of having a little bit of a hiatus was good because it gave us some time to, play different games, play with different groups, and and come back to the table and go, all right, what did you do on your summer holidays?
Oh, that question that students absolutely dread at the beginning of the school year.
Well, students, what did you do? I played cardboard. All right. I see Luke. Are you ready?
Yeah, I hope so.
There, we got Luke.
I'm better. My tech is healed. That's good.
Oh. So, the first thing we're going to talk about, Ryan, I'm just going to bring Luke in onto the loop, is as mockery as it is, what did you play on your summer holidays? So, Luke, your episode 1 expansion pack. Luke, give us a game that you played this summer. Okay.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll just first maybe just fill a little background. You had asked me what my Twitter handle was and whatnot there, and I should say I'm co-running Chattanooga, which is primarily an 18xx Twitter account that's also connected to a convention that takes place May long weekend here in Canada in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And we've been growing that convention now. This is we ran it the second year this last May, and we're looking forward to each annual piece of growth that we have. This last year, we actually had a group of guys drive up from Seattle, which was just fantastic. And in fact, we even had someone fly in from Finland.
So oh, really? Excellent.
It's a legit niche of the hobby, and I think people are interested in specifically Tyler McLaughlin's collection of 18xx. I think he's probably got, I want to honestly say, the best collection in the world. He literally has been an archivist and hunted down, and he's gotten files for things. He's made sure that those unpublished, out of print, hard to find things that were never even finished by designers, he's literally collated and made this collection near perfect. And so if you're into like a subgenre of the hobby such as 18xx, this is just like an absolute dream. It's a candy shop to go to this convention because you have the pick of any title that you want, rare, whatnot, right?
He sounds like Raiders of the Lost Cardboard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It sounds just absolutely cool and amazing.
There's one. Sorry.
What you've described to me was, I mean, personality-wise, the same as like guys who collect vinyl. Like jazz guys. Oh yeah, jazz guys would be like, I got this Miles Davis, bootleg cut when he did it in the club after New York. Yeah, it's
exactly it.
That's the level of passion that I can connect to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's those who enjoy collecting, right, can resonate with that. And just a little tiny example. I remember I was enthralled. There's a story behind every difficult to find board game, as you can well imagine. There's one game called 1831. And get this, like this was published, I want to say early 90s. And by published, I mean the designer hand drew the maps, handmade everything. And it actually comes in like one of those map roll like tubes. And so all these handmade components are stuffed into this tube. And there was only 26 copies of that game made A to Z. And so Tyler was able to somehow procure one of those 26 copies that were handmade by this guy. It's subsequently been published by All Aboard Games, which is a
but
notable.
Still, the edition he has a significant.
Absolutely, it does.
Just that story. Hunter.
Yeah,
just that story would just draw anybody, and I just want to listen to that story.
Yeah, and I mean, Tyler's the only one who can probably give it justice, but there's there's connections and there's all sorts of conversations that happened in the 18xx world through the last 10 years in terms of his growth of that collection. So
I'm gonna footnote for our audience and that you're gonna bring to this season some 18xx, some heavy games, and I am fired up because I've been so shy to dip my big toe into that pool that I think I'm just eventually going to have to cannonball.
Be careful.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, I've been enjoying it. You know what I've honestly found over the last 2 years, which is about the time frame of Chattanooga, and I was one of the I approached Tyler initially, and he and I sort of together found the energy to create this convention. And I was a complete 18xx newbie. And here I am with the 18xx guy in Canada, really. And I think we just found a resonance together and enough motivation to start this thing up. And so it's been since that time that I've really, I think, just refined my interests, tastes in particular board games. And I've seen that I'm shying away from some things. Not that I don't play. I still play a variety of games. And I'm sure if I'm back on in various expansion packs here,
oh, absolutely,
you'll get a taste that I have a variety of interests. I mean, we as gamers, I think, go through seasons and we get exposed to different kinds of games that are like, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know this whole little mini world was there. You know,
and that's what I'm fired about the most is like, you know, show me this perspective, or show me this world.
I'm excited about where my tastes go. Like my taste this past summer, like completely changed from what I normally loved to play and everything. So I like this idea.
Yeah, and I think that's good and okay. It's like okay to have a malleable favorites list. You know, it's okay to not be like I'm this committed like medium Euro guy like that. You can sort of flex
and
around
and ignore the rest. I think that's a fault.
Exactly. It's you know, it's the same thing as being human, right? Like we learn from each other and we learn from each other's tastes and things, and so board gaming is not exempt from that. So
I'm still not going to like Splendor.
We will play it once, Norm. I promise that. I don't know how many years it's going to take, but it's going to happen once.
As much as I protest about it, I'm going to, in one of our, you know, what did I play this summer thing, I'll say a game and you're going to basically hold me over the coals because you're going to argue that it is exactly the same game.
I know exactly which one you're talking about too.
Okay, so pardon the pun, but I took us off the rails. Luke, back to you.
Baboom. All right. So I from my understanding here, we're going to alternate and just talk about a few different games that we've been playing this summer. Yeah. I'll sort of, my summer is kind of in two pieces here, 3 pieces. So I'll start off with games that I felt like part of my goal was returning some classics. I'll talk about a few of those.
Like this.
Another sort of section was just more 18xx. I just want to always get that in, and then I continue probably every month just to try some new heavy Euro that's coming out. Cool. That's sort of my jam, and so I want to make sure that I'm, you know, having a little bit of intake there. But that's more and more becoming less and less of a thing in terms of my gaming time. Is
your format? I'm fired up.
Okay. So
he's like a billion times more organized than I am.
No. This is all ad hoc here. So I'll just start off. Keyflower. I've returned to Keyflower. You know what? I played that a number of years ago, and then I picked up a copy actually from an online trade here in Saskatoon, which was great. And oh my goodness, I've hit that probably a dozen times this summer, and in various ways I have one of the expansions as well. That game is a gem. It is absolute gold. I think, to me, something that, again, in the last 2 years has been growing in terms of my interest is the interaction between players, and Keyflower's got that in spades.
Well,
that really unique auction mechanic of I'm bidding for my tile and I got to one-up you, and it's got to be in the same color. And
if I recall correctly, green is very important.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, I don't know how deep we want to get into explaining these titles here. I'm assuming a lot of people are familiar with Keyflower. It's been out for quite a while,
and if they're not, you should go to BGG right now and go check out this absolutely beaut.
Yeah,
you know what? What strikes me the most about it has nothing to do with the gameplay. The art. I just love the clean, open. I mean, with the white background, everything's nice and sharp. I mean, the iconography is one of those things like any other game. Yeah,
I think in this title,
it's clear, but it's language. You have, you know, the semiotic of it. You just got to go, oh, this means this and that means that, and every game has that. But I was so attracted to in that whole series, that Key series, the continuity of the art. I mean, I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, essentially with Keyflower, the thing that compels me with it is. Like it's worker placement, right? But you have 3, sometimes 4, you know, blue, yellow, red, and sometimes green if you've earned those through other actions, colored workers in which to take actions with. But the thing is, it's the timing is so critical. And it reminds me of Agricola in that way, or other sort of action, like worker placement games where I need to get the wood before someone else does, except in this case, oh man, the pressure of, do I put this tile to auction, and with which color, or do I take the action on that tile and with which color? And oh shoot, someone else took the one I wanted to do next, and they chose the color that I didn't want them to choose. And it's so layered in that sense. And you can take actions on other people's buildings, which they're collecting every season. And so there's this sort of exponential growth of possibilities over the course of the sort of 4 rounds, 4 seasons of the game. And not only possibilities, but there's this exponential growth of how we're messing with each other and how we're interacting with each other. And I find that so fascinating. It's really, really cool.
And the fact that your workers come over on their boats in between the seasons, and some boats have more workers than others. And it's just yeah. And
the variable that just messes with me is the hidden information. What do they have behind their shield?
You got to pay attention, Norm.
Well, it's hard, right?
I was distracted. What was that? Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, Keyflower. It's I think after this dozen or so plays this summer, it's definitely up there in one of my top favorite games. Like it's such a classic to me, and it's just so smooth and so beautiful. So
dang, you made me want to play that one right now.
Yep.
Okay, Ryan, it looks like you're next.
I'll never turn down a play of Keyflower ever if somebody suggests it.
Yeah. That's
on to me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my summer was kind of like the summer of the escape rooms. My wife kind of discovered her love of escape rooms because of the puzzle solving natures and the unique cooperation that we need to do. So we played a lot of escape room type games. Like one of the big ones that we played a lot of were the Exit games. By Marcus and Inca Brand. We managed to get
designers.
We managed to get 3 of them this summer. We played the Abandoned Cabin, Pharaoh's Tomb, and the Forgotten Island, all with different groups and different couples. And my gosh, have they captured the experience of going into an escape room, but at your dining room table? The puzzles are very, very clever. There's lots of like, oh my gosh, aha moments, and we would have never thought about that way. Sometimes I'm a guy, I don't want to take a hint. I want to struggle with this. A couple times we had to take a hint.
I was going to say,
when you take the hint, you're like, oh my gosh, really? It was right in front of us the entire time.
Oh, that's great.
But so these games, and they're played in like about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. You get this little bit of a score. They have like this little scoring system of how long did it take you, how many hints did you need. The thing I like about the Exit games, there's the other series that's called Unlock. Unlock is just a series of cards. Exit's also kind of like a series of cards, but there's usually a book involved. In Exit, you actually have to do some physical manipulation.
And one of them is you destroy components, and the other one is you don't.
Yeah, in Exit, most oftentimes, if you want to solve the puzzle, you're probably going to end up having to cut something out or fold a piece of paper or destroy something, and to be able to solve the puzzle. And
so, do you find that a little bit more engaging, or?
Oh yeah, I like that part of just like because those are the kind of when I'm researching an escape room in the city here, I'm looking for the rooms that I actually have to do something. I actually have to physically manipulate and take something apart or something along those lines. So Exit, the game, those ones, you have to explore them. You can't really go to them in more detail without doing any spoilers. But based off my favorites right now, Abandoned Cabin has the best aha moments.
That's the first one in the Exit series, isn't it?
I think that's the first. I think that was the first one.
Yeah,
and it has very clever puzzles, and it makes you feel really good about yourself when you solved one. The next one I would say that the Pharaoh's Tomb. The Pharaoh's Tomb had a lot of math involved, so I kind of liked it.
I was just going to say
as the math teacher and everything, but some people may know.
For each story, do they find a different twist on how to utilize?
Yeah, everything is very thematic. So in the Pharaoh's Tomb, everything is like hieroglyphics and moving sarcophaguses and maps and a lot of things like that. So Exit the games, we played the 3 of them. I've got the other 4 sitting on my shelf waiting to be played again. So we're ready to go.
Ryan, that sounds great. I haven't actually tried any of these series yet, and I've been interested. This is piquing my excitement.
So they're really good, and the price point on them are really good. Like online, I think you can get them for like $15.
That's great.
Maybe in store you get them for like $20. So like the amount of entertainment you get for like that hour is definitely worth it.
And what kind of player count do you recommend on these type of
That's
games?
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
They say you can play it solo, which I don't think I would ever want to do, because having more people at the table brings all those multiple perspectives on the games. We found that 4 is probably the sweet spot. I probably wouldn't do any more than 4. We've done one at 2 players, and my wife and I were at each other's throats the entire time. So don't do it at 2-player with your wife. Bring another couple so that you can at least bounce ideas. I would say 4. 4 is the best.
Okay. So
what about you, Norm? Oh, sorry.
No. I was going to say that I haven't played. I have a couple of those, but I have yet to play them, and I think that's encouraging enough for me to open up the box and have a go.
It's like they're great cooperative. Like if you want to work at team building skills or anything like that, or just working together. Escape rooms, we really discovered our love of them. So I've got another couple on my list that I'll probably talk about, but
like the thing with escape rooms that appeals to me is that there's no player elimination. You're as engaged in the game as you want to be.
And as long as they keep pumping them out, because they are a one and done. Like once you've solved the puzzle, you've solved the puzzle. You're not going to play. You're not going to play it again.
Or and the price point facilitates that too.
Yeah, if you destroyed the whole game, you can't play it again.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready? You guys ready for mine?
Sure.
Well, you better saddle up, boys, because I played some Great Western Trail.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a great one.
I have something that clicks with me with this game. I mean, it could be that my brain runs at about 100 miles an hour, and that there's card drafting, there's worker placement, there's so many different like mechanisms and underlying meta that's going on with this game that we think we played it with our Wednesday night game. I think we played it like 3-4 times. You know, every week it's like, what do you guys want to play? Let's play Great Western Trail again. And I'm okay with the making cows go from one place to another. But I did discover, because in Great Western Trail, like I said, the theme is you're taking cattle from I believe it's St. Louis or Texas or something like that, and you're bringing them all the way up to Kansas City. There's probably people freaking out because I got everything backwards, but I don't care. Right? That's what I played this summer. But it's it goes from it plays 2 to 4 players. I think the sweet spot is 3 players.
I would agree. I would agree with that. 4 players seems to really be like it's a slog fest.
Yeah. And what I like about it is that on your player board, you are, I guess, a cattle baron, but you're hiring cowboys, you're hiring carpenters, you're hiring station masters, and these individuals allow you asynchronous powers compared to everybody else on the board. If you have one, cowboy, then you get a deal on cows. If you have more, you get a deal on cows. That is a path for victory points that I've discovered a while ago. Then I think, was it you, Ryan, or was it Bernard or Ken about the carpenters, about building those houses and start having those houses get you, more victory points?
Yeah, it was the first time that I believe it was Ken. Managed to highly do the effective builder carpenter strategy.
Yeah,
I had never seen it actually pulled off. I had seen people come close, but he executed it like from start of game to end of game, like beautifully.
Like the cowboy strategy, like I was saying, is that if you have more cowboys,
is very strong, especially if like you're a newer player. That's what you're probably going to tend to do, because it is all about the cows.
Buy the valuable cows, end of game value points. But the carpenter one, that took some layering and scaffolding, and I think the cows is short the short game or the short game, and the carpenter is the long game, because you got to decide.
That's the strategy that requires the most forward planning.
Yeah,
you definitely.
What I discovered also is the station master is if you can play the station master properly, about moving your train down the track to hit the stations with the big victory points. And
hey, it's a train game.
It's a train game. Hey, back to Luke. I found that station master is a fragile but successful strategy if you could pull it off. But I'm still trying to find that.
But you need to couple that strategy with the cowboy strategy.
Yeah,
you still need to make money.
You gotta juggle those three aspects, and then of course you add the idea of upgrades, where you're taking those discs off of your player board to open up more powers to you, like Scythe does.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I mean, I should stop talking now, because this could turn into just me talking about this game.
Well, that's a future episode, isn't it?
This is what I've wanted to try. Shamefully,
I was going to say
that. Yeah, I enjoy those games where, like, it sounds like there's kind of three paths, but you could sort of use any combination in terms of those pieces to propel yourself to victory and points, sorts of things. And it's neat when you can come back to a title, like you're saying, 4 or 5 plays and say, I really want to explore this path.
Yeah.
Like, there's questions to be asked. There's answers to find, you know, and I like that, especially with these heavier games. And maybe next time you think, oh, I want to try a little bit of a combination here or something, you know.
Or come back to it and go, I played this angle, but I played it poorly. I want to play it more efficiently this time.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's one of those.
Now that I saw Ken how he did the carpenter strategy, I want to try. I want to actually try to see if I can actually pull that off. I'm more of the run and gun. I'm really poor at that forward planning.
Oh,
I want to try it now.
Yeah,
just because it's so difficult to pull off. I need to try it.
You have to be patient, and I don't have that at all. Okay, so. Back to you, Luke. So you said you started off with the classic, and then I believe your middle one was 18XX.
Well, I mean, I had a few classics, I suppose. I don't know how many games we want to hit here.
You know what? Let's go until we're bored.
So after I'm done talking.
No, stop it.
Yeah. So okay, I don't know how you guys feel about sort of this game. I got in only a few times, but I also it sort of faded on me. So maybe that's an interesting thing to sort of explore. And perhaps you've both played it. It was Madeira.
Oh, that is on my wish list.
I was going to say, this one's been on my wish list radar for close to about a year now.
What's your game? I have Nippon. I have Signori. I love that.
We played those ones. Those ones I've really, really enjoyed.
And they're coming out with a second edition. That one in Zhangwo. Yeah.
Yes, those ones. And I know Brazil is like in the hopper, right? And this design team, this Nuno Sentiero and Paulo Soledad, they've done this one in Nippon and Panamax. I really enjoy Panamax. That's a great game too. But yeah, Madeira was kind of high on my list a few years ago, and I'm glad to have gotten a few plays of it in. Like you said, what's your game? Beautiful games. They just, man, the art in these things is just perfectly done, clear, but there's like a nice aesthetic taste to it. Like you can kind of,
it's got a vintagey feel.
Yeah. It's not overdone either. It sort of has a bit of a classic Euro sort of feel to it, but it looks very crisp. Yeah, I really appreciate their actual like design work. The sort of like nuts and bolts of Madeira. It's you know, I mean, theme wise, we're talking an island off the coast in the Atlantic there, and basically the way that it's sort of framed is it was a laboratory for what would become the Portuguese Empire, this island of sort of exploring how to, you know, get resources off the land, how to bring those resources into trading and that sort of a thing. And so the game itself is a whole ton of interlocked mechanisms. And if I can say one thing about Madeira, it's that kind of the task of the player is, how do I even sort these things out in such a way that I can manipulate them? They're so tightly connected that you kind of look at the board the first time and think, how is my one action now going to actually get me to do that thing over there? So the way the game flows is at the beginning, there's sort of a turn order that's set at the end of each turn. So you're selecting a set of action dice, and the dice are rolled not in any sort of like, there's a randomization element, but it's that sort of beforehand knowledge, right? So you get to actually choose based on the turn order which set of dice you use. And those dice, you can use them anywhere, but there's kind of 3 regions that are set up on the board. And if you're using a dice of a lower pip, so they're 1 to 3, 1, 2, or 3, you're just going to incur a higher cost if you go on the 2 or the 3 region. So it's sort of that is the incentive to fight for turn order, is you're going to get a better choice of dice. It doesn't limit you where you're going to go. It just modifies your decision in terms of costs. So I like that. I like that kind of idea. There's sort of the actual island of Madeira base where you can place workers. And I should say there's the action dice are technically your worker placement. Those are the actions you get. So you usually get 3, and then there's also these pirate dice, which I can explain a little bit later as well, that sort of offer you additional actions, but there's some kind of
there's a cost.
There's a cost, and there's some tricky ways to manipulate those things. Below that sort of like action selection mechanism, and there's 5 sort of primary actions to take, and below each of those is a secondary action that can get triggered if you have sort of the right conditions and those sorts of things. So you're placing dice on one of those 5 things. And those actions are often allowing you to then place workers from your workforce. So everyone has sort of like I'm going to say it's about 20 workers. Okay. And these people are going to end up being on farms or plantations, sort of gathering resources. They might be in the city trying to win you money or win you sort of other sorts of bonus tiles. I guess they'd be like sort of senators or politicians or things like that then become sort of this asymmetric bonus that you get to use ongoing. And then you also have fleets of ships that you're going to be sending out to colonies, and you're also going to be using as trading vessels. And so there's like more resources you're getting, and there's also sort of an income generation piece on that there. And so in the use of these action dice, you're often moving these workers around to these different places, or your ships, trying to maximize what it is that you want to do on that turn. 5 turns in the game to play, and scoring happens on rounds 1, 3, and 5. And the interesting thing about scoring is that you're sort of given, and in fact you collect throughout the game sets of little scoring tiles. So it's your own personal scoring condition that you get to execute on round 1, round 3, and round 5. So you have some good information to project to sort of manipulate your way to that victory condition on each of those rounds. And so really what I found myself doing a lot was, how do I make my workers work for me in the way that I need them to for this round, and then I can sort of reset for the next scoring tile I have. Or maybe there's a way I can harmonize it so that I can that scoring tile is just a little bit different, not too much different.
See,
it's quite interesting.
I've heard that with this game, not only are you playing against the opponents, but you're playing against the game's own system.
Yeah, I mean, there's limited pieces, right? And you feel like you actually want more workers out. Of course, it's one of those types of games where the more workers out, you're going to owe bread for each of them at the end, right? Every ship, you're going to owe some wood upkeep. So there's this tension of like, you can't just get more stuff because you're going to be spending it, And I always think that's quite a clever design mechanism, right?
It sounds like one of those games where you can lose the game in the first move if it's a wrong move.
I'm sure. Now, just in terms of my personal thoughts after a couple games here, it waned on me a little bit, unfortunately. And I think because what I was starting to see is this is like logistics the game. And some other games where I feel as though there's a sense of development, like especially games where you have your own personal tableau or something where you're sort of building towards.
Yeah.
There's nothing you ever really possess in this game other than resources that just get used again. It's kind of you're getting stuff, you're using it.
Excel spreadsheet the game?
Yeah, and so you're manipulating where your workers go and which scoring condition you're going to have. And if you really like that logistics puzzle each round, I'm sure you're going to like this. I found it very tactical in that sense, turn to turn. And I mean, I guess it's fair to say I haven't given enough plays to sort of get that sense of the long-term strategy. But yeah, it was more logistics heavy than I expected. And less on the development piece. And I guess I didn't realize how much I enjoy sort of the construction of something that's mine or that other players can interact with as well. So
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
sounds very interesting. I definitely want to try this. When you said it's kind of like that's where my brain goes. I'm a very logical, very logistics. I need to do X, Y, Z in that exact order, and I'm gonna be highly efficient at it. And
it's very puzzly, like very puzzly. Yeah.
Is there, I believe on one of the reviews where when you do your worker placement, if there's somebody else there, there's this extra page, and if you don't pay it, then you leave the tab for somebody else or something like that?
Yeah, there's like a limit to how many of these dice actions that you can take within each of those 5 possible places.
Yeah.
And the pirates create this additional fee that gets incurred. Sort of at the end of the round, there's there's a resolution, a cleanup sort of phase, and you end up having to pay depending on how many people are in different action spaces. And there's a bit of a random element there where you roll dice, and there's a cost that's incurred for having taken those actions in that region. But
cool. I can't wait for that. I think I'll have to look, but I think I kickstarted it.
Nice, very nice. Yeah. I would love to play
Norm kickstarted a game and I didn't.
Well, I mean, I saw they were advertising on Twitter that it was coming out, and of course I just started to shake as I was holding my phone, going, "Where's my Kickstarter button?" Okay,
nice.
Yeah, and I think my motivation is solely from the hearsay that I've, like yourself and everybody else has talked about it, but the track record of that company. Yeah. So Ryan, it's your turn.
Back to me. Hey,
back to you.
So I'm gonna go back on like the escape room, kind of loop it around. But my wife and I started playing Detective, the modern crime board game.
That's a Portal release, right?
Yeah, Ignacy Trzewiak, and it generated a lot of hype at Gen Con this past year. So in Detective, it's kind of taking that system like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but kind of modernizing it right now.
Cool.
So it's taking it and putting it in a modern crime. And what we're having to do here is that you are now police detectives, and you each get like a little card. Kind of gives you kind of like your little specialty. Like I'm a computer specialist, and somebody's like an interrogation specialist, and then what you have on the off to the side is you got some of your consultants, and they kind of just give you a little bit of extra things that you can do on when you're doing investigations. Now, what makes Detective really, really interesting is that you have the base game box comes with 5 cases that you need to solve. And we thought, cool. Okay, we're going to sit down for a night and we're going to work through case number 1. You're not going to work through case number 1 in one night. It was, we were not actually prepared for the amount of brain burn this was generating. There's a hint in the rule book where it says, we highly recommend you grab a whiteboard and do a mind map.
Wow.
And we're like, okay, that's okay. That's pretty bold. That's pretty ambitious. Whatever. So we read the introduction, started doing a few things, and then we're like, holy smokes, they are throwing information at us left, right, and center. We need to get a whiteboard. And I felt like I was an actual police detective. So what they have is there's a case, and there's some overarching thing that we need to be able to solve. It's not necessarily that you're going to solve a murder, but maybe you need the first one. Spoilers. First one is that you have to map out a timeline of a series of events that have happened, and throughout this whole process, you're going to be given clues, and you're going to be given places that you can investigate. Now, you have to be careful because investigation takes time, and time is your resource. You only have so much time in a given work day, like technically in a work day, in order to pursue all of these leads and all these clues.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, just like a police detective. So then you have to sit down and you have to decide, make a really tough decision. Are we going to go path A, B, C, D, E, F? Which path are we going to follow? Which one makes the most sense to us? Because spoiler alert again, my wife and I, we went down one particular path and it felt really good to us. And it was a red herring. We bit hard, and it looped back at us and said, yeah, you just pretty much wasted a whole day doing nothing. And we had felt like we were actually doing something.
I was gonna say, were you so emotionally involved that you were upset?
I was mad. Like if I was a police detective and I just wasted a whole day following garbage, like I was upset.
That's amazing that a game can evoke that same feeling.
and I think that's what he's trying to do. Yeah. He's trying to make you invest. Like I felt like he made me feel like I was a police detective. Now I haven't even touched on the cool part about this game is that everything that you can track is through. They have developed a website that you can track, and it looks like a legitimate police database.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So when I'm reading a story, like I'm in a scenario, I'm in a situation, and I found some evidence. Well, they can have a place where I can go and I can enter that evidence into the database. And if I've entered a piece of evidence that matches some other piece of evidence, that it'll tell me like, hey, you found a fingerprint. That exact same fingerprint was actually found on something else that you've already discovered.
So it'll give you a correlation. Yeah.
And it tells you it was a 98% match.
Oh, nice.
So you're like, oh, I can infer now that this person that was doing this has now been there. I can draw that. There's also a really cool thing is that he's actually done the research of historical events that have actually happened, that he gives you a little link, says, hey, go type this into Google and go research it further. Something inside that link actually happened and it pertains to your case.
Oh, cool.
So like the one that I know that they were doing demos at a Gen Con was something about this basketball player. And they gave a clue that, well, he was actually at this basketball game at some point in time, and you go look it up, this basketball game actually happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a score and stats and everything. So there's a lot of those little pieces that you can infer. So we have, like, when we said this was not, we had done, we invested like 3 hours one night and we got through like 2 days of investigation. And there's a little time limit. There's a time limit of like, you have to solve this case in 4 days or something like that. And it tracks your time. And then at the end, if you've ran out of time, you have to submit your file report, in which is it's a multiple choice test, really. And they ask you a series of questions that say, hey, how sure of you that you can make this particular link? And you'll be like, we never made that link at all, or I think we made that link, or
what are you talking
yes,
about?
Definitely we made that link. And then afterwards it'll give you a score, and if you've gotten to certain points, you get to say, hey, you solved the case. And it'll say, hey, oh, well, for the first time we did the test, we're like, okay, we're pretty confident. We did the test, we failed miserably.
Wow.
And it told us like, yeah, you need to go back, you need to go revisit some clues. You only found like 15 out of 50 pieces of evidence that are needed. And
does it instruct you to do it over?
So then at that case, it's like they say like, yeah, it's a complete reset. You could just start over again, but now you kind of have some more knowledge. It's kind of like, hey, Scooby-Doo, go back in time and start it over again. Kind of like
to me that says it has some solid variability, because then you could walk down another like just that whole tech tree of the potential.
He has mentioned in interviews that there are multiple ways to arrive at the final solution in each of these cases. Now what's really cool, because we only just we've actually finally completed case number 1 out of the 5 cases. Apparently the 5 cases are all interconnected.
I've heard that.
So
yeah.
So what we've done in case number 1 is there's going to be things that we've discovered there that are going to transfer over into case number 2 now, which is I find is really, really cool. Like, and of course, case number 1, this has taken us like 6-7 hours.
And what's blown me away is the depth of design that's required. Like you said, that they link data, actual, real event data with the game system that you like in a 5-box kind of set, the story arc. There has to be some deep design going on.
Oh yeah, and then just like the sheer amount of information that's flying at us, you have to be very certain. Like, okay, that's a waste of time. This is a possible lead. This one we're on the fence about. Let's leave that for right now. Yeah, it's a really good design. You have to sit down and play with it for a while. This would not be something like I would say, hey, start it, come back a month later, because you're going to forget details that are very, very important.
You need to be immersed in that kind of thing.
Yeah, here's a question for you. Is this a game or is this an RPG? Because what you've described, but I mean, just from listening to you, you're describing through what the game requires you to do.
Like I said,
it's like an RPG. You're playing the role of a detective.
I kind of put this in that escape room thing. Like we're trying to solve a puzzle, really.
Yeah.
And they're giving us all these clues and all these things like that. Yeah, you can role play this a little bit, but
I mean,
it immerses you in a universe very, very well.
But the emotional spectrum that you're experiencing as a player, you just said, I felt like I was a detective that wasted a whole day.
So I think that's fascinating. That's really, really neat.
And yeah, to me, that is so cool that just this on paper design can affect a gaming environment like that.
Yeah, and everything's done on, like, if you're looking at the story and the text, it's all done on cards, like tarot size cards. It's got some text on it that you just read, and it's got a story behind it. And yeah, so detective modern crime. I definitely would highly recommend this, but beware that it is a time commitment.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. Have you played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective?
I have actually not played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, even though I really, really, really do. I just didn't need to get my hands on a copy.
Yeah,
I played it, and wow, did that game ever show me how embarrassing I was at playing that game?
Yeah, I've heard many people just compare. This one is Consulting Detective modernized with some technology.
Interesting. Yeah. When you were talking about it, the closest thing I could connect with was I played Tragedy Looper, which is a total mind bend. That game is just kind of similar. In this one, there's usually a sort of a mystery of some kind, a murder, whatever, and you keep going back in time and gathering little bits of information.
Oh, cool!
Yeah.
Oh, that's another one that my wife and I have played. We've played Time Stories.
Okay.
We played many scenarios in the Time Stories universe. It's the same idea where you have some sort of thing that you need to solve, but quite often time you're going to run out of time and you need to go back. Now you have information of things that you can do some things in the beginning more efficiently to get you to the catch up point to try to solve your mission or case or anything like that.
Well, what you said about detective seems like it's a fully fleshed out, piece.
Actually, my ideal would be like maybe at a con, if you grabbed like a few people together and say, hey, we're gonna sit down for like 4 hours, have like the big like whiteboard conference room thing going on. We have like four or five laptops going.
Oh man,
stuff like that. So we can enter like and be like police detectives around for like 4 hours and try to solve a case. I think it would be really, really cool.
That would be fantastic.
Sign me up. Okay.
All right, to you, Norm.
All right. I'm looking at my list here and I'm like, all right, do I talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, or do I leave it to the next round? And I think I'll leave it to the next round.
800-pound
but
gorilla.
I want to talk about a game that Luke here taught me. I have a copy, and it just came up in discussion that Luke said, "Well, let's play. I got a copy. I love this game, and it's Wildcatters."
Mm-hmm. That's good. Then I don't have to talk about it here.
Well, you can. You know what? You can help me talk about this one because I mean, this is down to the tooth of Conjecture. I've played this once, and that was with you. But like for me, when I buy a game, I'm gonna do the research, and I'm gonna, because I'm getting, like you were saying before, I'm getting to that point where my tastes are becoming refined, and I know what kind of game system is going to scratch that itch, kind of thing. And so when I did my research on Wildcatters, and I mean, I'm turning into a capstone, love child here, because
everyone should. Everyone should.
I mean,
the games are really great.
I'm learning Hashbelnecht right now.
Okay.
And, but Wildcatters, theme-wise, is oil industry. Like global oil industry, and I'm going to try my best from my memory, but you're basically a company that is trying to find the oil, pump the oil, not necessarily process the oil, but transport the oil to certain refinery points that connect to another level of game of area control. And I believe that is what's generating your victory points for the end of the game, and among other little kind of side things. But from my experience, that was the meat of where your points are coming from. Now, the difficult decision is, there's so many difficult decisions, but for me, from what I experienced through all the errors that I did in the game, was the timing of when do you, when do you drill. I forget what the term is, but when do you drill for oil? Because if you're the first one, you're paying that big initial cost, and then everybody can piggyback after. There's
a lot of piggybacking in this game, which is really interesting.
In the same oil field, but then once that goes, they're talking about trains, because there's going to be the necessity of transportation, and you could own a certain chunk of rail line, or you can use somebody else's. This was very intriguing to me, and I think I talked about this in the game from my history background, was this vertical integration. If you want to hang on to all the money, then you own all the companies at every level of this industry. And that's not the way to play this game. It's a bit about, well, I'll use your train and I'll use your boat and I'll bring it to your refinery so that I can get my oil barrels that will represent influence in these countries for this area control. To me, that was such
there's a big
razor's edge decision.
Yeah, there's a big question of how much do I invest in capital projects, like building my infrastructure, right? Because that's the typical approach in many of these kinds of games, where you have like an engine, a logistics piece to work out. It's like, I want to use my stuff because I have to pay when I use that other person's stuff. But it's like, you got to count the cost benefit analysis on every part of that puzzle, because you realize, okay, I actually can take some losses in the transportation and pay out to other people, because then I don't have to pay for that stuff. I don't have to pay for building trains or boats or refineries or whatever, right? And you kind of just, you realize the level of connection that you require with each player in that game is just,
and like every delicious game, this one has loans. And I went deep into loans, and not because I wanted to, but because there's a situation where if you're bringing barrels to a refinery, the owner of that refinery has to pay you their shares. And if you have no shares to pay, you're taking a loan. And, oh, man, everybody at the board, I mean, it's one of those things where you do not want to show that you're in a potential weak situation, because everybody can look at you and go, you have no shares. If I dump all my barrels in your refinery, I'm going to put you to I'm going to send you to the sharks, because you're pulling loans. And what I was happy about my gameplay was, yes, I found myself into that area where, oh man, I'm in Martin Wallace hell here, because I'm pulling loans and pulling loans, right? But for me, I found the game, my new success was, I'm not going to win the game. I want to get out. I want to pay off these loans. And I think you guys were all pretty impressed where it's like, oh, wow, you did do that, you know, at the cost of going last. But Ryan, you'll love this game.
There's thematic integration all the way along in all those types of actions. Like what you were hinting at here, Norm, it's like when you take your oil and you deliver it to someone else's refinery, oh, they're paying for your product. But it's a forced payment, right? Like you're saying, this oil is just coming in on the trains here or the ship. I mean, you got to refine it now. That's kind of whatever meta structure set that up. But then the person in the refinery, right, they're going to, when that refinery is full, which in this case is usually 5 barrels, they can also be sort of emptied through other actions.
But stock revenues.
Then essentially it's thematically like this continent is consuming that now refined oil, and that refinery owner gets paid for it. So it's like you're getting hit up front with buying the product, but you know you're going to get benefit in the end. It's extremely interesting.
And Brian, what he's talking about, that benefit is once your refinery is full, then you can ship it off and collect your shares, right? And and again, that was another one where it's like I remember having a couple refineries where I just need one more barrel, please ship me one more barrel so I can flip my refinery. And because the barrels that go from your refinery, you get to profit from shares. And I believe this was this aspect of it was so interesting that if your own barrels are in your own refinery, you have options. And you can either not take revenue from it, but leave them as influence, that territory control influence, or you can, I believe you can cash them out, Luke?
Yeah, you can with the penalty.
I think they're a penalty of some sort. You kind of phased out there for a sec. You were going to say they're at a cost of a penalty.
Yeah, you can. Sorry, your question was that you can place them in the area majority, but the penalty is that you don't actually get paid for them in shares.
Yeah.
Whereas if you withhold them, then you can get paid for shares, but you're giving up on some of that valuable area majority, advantage to yourself.
Which are the victory points for the end of the game, and that's where I started noticing the area control race was when I was trying to make enough shares to cover my loans. I was, part of my game was pay attention. I know I'm fighting for last, but from me as a learning game, I was paying attention to how do you successfully control these continental areas, and it was such a like razor's edge balance of, do I take shares or do I leave it as influence? And I'm itching to get back to that game. So yeah, Wildcatters, Ryan, what do you think of this?
I was jealous the amount of times you guys were posting pictures on Twitter.
It honestly is also.
I was not able to be there.
We didn't mention this, but it is one of the prettiest games on the table I've ever seen. It is just fantastic.
I know. I was just looking up pictures on BGG here as you guys were talking. I'm just like, I was frothing at the mouth.
Yeah, it's got the toy sort of to it. It's got these just great wooden pieces. The board is this kind of like sepia tone era, 1900s thing. Yeah,
it's like got this tea-stained look to it. I just love it. So do you guys feel like doing one more round?
Yeah, we could do one more round, I think.
Just Ryan's waiting for that 800-pound gorilla to...
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. We can't not now. So.
No. We can transition. We can move on to the... All right, Luke.
Plus, I haven't talked about Dragon Ball Super yet.
No, exactly. And I haven't touched 18XX, so I guess that's what I'm doing now.
Okay. You guys are going to finish off with these big ta-da moments, and I'm going to wah, 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 wah. All right, Luke.
Yeah.
Talk about some trains, man.
Okay. So 18XX, for those who aren't familiar, is a family of train games that... has been around for a while. since the 80s at least. And there's like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode here, Tyler has been cultivating a collection. I mean, there's got to be over 150 of these titles at this point. I don't know the exact number.
Wow.
A lot of them hard to find. And so I've seen 18xx growing in recent years because of the availability of certain titles. 1846 is one that was produced by GMT Games.
GMT, yeah.
Yeah, so GMT is sort of, dipping their toes in the 18xx water, which is great. I think their sort of model for publishing works really well for this kind of a niche. The P500 system, sort of this pre-order, and you're trying to get just a smaller group of people to back these kinds of projects. There's a reprint coming up from Lookout Games, the formerly known as Mayfair, I suppose, of 1830. And 1830 is kind of the classic title, right? Mayfair had done a publication of that in 2011, I think it was. There was gripes about the design, and I actually haven't played it. People still prefer the old Avalon Hill, which is like your old 80s version. So I've been following a few of the threads and forums, and it looks like Lookout is considering a lot of feedback in terms of doing this next publication of 1830, which is, kind of your gold standard 18xx game. What I'd want to talk about, though, is a couple winsome 18xx games that I was able to get to the table this summer. I was able to pick up a collection of 4 of the now 5 winsome 18xx. And for those of you unfamiliar with winsome, that's we're going down rabbit holes here in terms of niches. But winsome is a sort of, they're not even really a publisher. They're kind of like a think tank. And you basically get on a subscription list, which has always been, I think, maxed out at 200. And so this guy, John Bohr, just publishes or prints or produces. He doesn't really publish. He produces 200 copies, and everyone on this subscription list of 200 gets it. Kind of somebody bumps out, you can get in, but there's not really any room. So these are very hard to find titles unless you're going on the secondhand market or that sort of a thing. At the 5 18xx, and they don't do 18xx, they do a Cube Rails games similar to Iberian Rails, if you've played that one, or Chicago Express would be like, a sort of popular one. Paris Connection is another one of those Cube Rails games. So not sure if you guys touched any of those.
I'm recognizing these titles.
Okay, this is fun.
I haven't played them, but I know them. I know about them.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, there's a variety of levels of train games, and 18xx just happens to be the piece of the puzzle I've really been gravitating towards. It's really, at its heart, it's got 3 systems going on. It's got a stock manipulation game where we are all buying shares in each other's companies. So Norm, as we were just talking about, Container's also another one of these games where you're using each other's stuff, but Wildcatters, this is the thing. In 18xx, you are always invested in everything else everyone's doing because you might own 30-40% of someone else's company, so you kind of want them to do well because it'll benefit you. On top of the stock market, and there's value of shares. As companies grow, they go up, and that adds to your overall wealth. If companies start doing poor, they devalue, and that hurts your overall wealth. And the game is essentially the value you have at the end in your stock and your cash on hand. So that's kind of the one piece of the puzzle, and it tends to be emphasized in a certain family of 18xx as the stock game. There's the operations. So you got a board with like hexes, and you're laying little train tracks, and you're connecting cities and trying to make money by running trains on it. And certain titles emphasize sort of the technicalities of how to actually make the map work to your favor, how to block people with station tokens. 1846 would be a great example of a game that I think is really well suited to players who are familiar with sort of heavy Euro games. There's a lot of, you're looking for synchronization of private company powers. So there's some asymmetry everybody has. You're trying to like develop these nice rail networks, and you're trying to move for efficiencies, right? You're trying to build for efficiencies, and it tends to be a really good crossover game. And then sort of these two main pieces, and a lot of the 18xx family emphasize stock or operations to some extent. Sometimes they're pretty equal. And then there's this, what's underneath it all is kind of trains. And so there's a technology tree essentially baked into all 18xx.
Oh,
where,
cool.
Yeah, where the higher the number of train that you buy, and so as you're buying these more technologically advanced trains, things open up. So you buy a train that then initiates the green phase. So it opens up more technology for building track, and it opens up more options for doing things in terms of what your company can build. And so the trains is another aspect, and that's player driven. The game itself, actually, every phase is player driven, right?
Can you explain, sorry for interrupting, but can you explain a term that I've heard several 18xxers use about my trains are rusting out?
The rusting, yes. So this is, and I think it's been helpful to think of the trains as a tech tree for me, because as you're buying greater technology, you're going from these coal-powered trains to diesel trains at the end. The old trains become defunct; they're obsolete, and so what happens is at the purchase of a type of train, it will a variety of terms that are used. One of the lower trains is that have invested money in all that technology. All of a sudden, it's wiped off. It's kind of useless for them, right?
Oh, that would be frustrating.
Absolutely, yeah. And so there's a big tension in the game of keeping up with other companies. As long as companies are kind of at the same level, we all own the same type of trains, fine. But you kind of manipulate your moves, like upgrading your tech to obsolete other people's tech.
Now, are you able to see that other players are in a situation where you can force them to have to upgrade and like economically just hurt them?
Absolutely, yeah. Because the way the trains work is it's they go up numerically, and you're always required to buy the currently available train. And so if you've obsoleted someone's older trains, and the newer trains are much more expensive, then they might get caught in a position where they have to pay all of their company's money, and then it falls onto the president of that company to pay out of pocket off. There are some ones that I was going to highlight often end in bankruptcies. So it's the dance. That's what it is. 1857 is particularly notorious for this. This is one set in Argentina that I've played a couple times now this summer, and it's almost designed to end in bankruptcy. And if you think of those sort of three aspects, the trains, the stocks, and the operations, this game is like a test subject for figuring out how to manage that tech tree, how to keep up with the race. And if you fall behind, you're done.
Oh man!
And it's quite. I don't mind the bankruptcy in this case because it actually just ends the game. And in fact, the one game I played, I think I won by having about like $40 more than I started, because you can actually even win if you bankrupt yourself. Like, there are ways and techniques to do it. Like, it's very fascinating. So it's not that it's just like this kind of player elimination, but totally out of it. Some of the games are sort of designed so that you're trying to put someone into the position, perhaps, so that it actually works out into your advantage. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I got to play me some 18xx, and I think my first. I've looked at this on the shelf so many times, but was the GMT edition. I think it was 46. You said 1846.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
1846.
Yeah,
and that's interestingly, I'm not sure if most people are aware, but 1846 was designed by Tom Lehman, which is the same guy who designed Race for the Galaxy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
good. I love
road.
Race for the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah, Race is a masterpiece. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, yay!
I got to shut up though, because I mean I could just go on and on about titles, but
we'll
that's beautiful. I love that. I love that passion. I don't. If no one can actually see me, but I just kind of sat back and I just kind of just listened, and just the sheer amount of like joy in your voice as you're talking about
this. Like, tell me more. Tell me the story about trains, Luke.
Here, I'll tell you the one thing, and then I'll just pass it on here. But what I've really appreciated about 18xx is that you learn a basic rule set, and that rule set carries over pretty much across all the titles. And then what you're doing is when you're learning a new one, it's kind of like you just need to learn this little cheat sheet. It's like, here's a few differences that drastically change the dynamics of the game in many cases. Here's a new geography, like a new map that we're going to work with. And you sort of just have to learn a little bit, but what you can do is you've been learning at a meta level strategies and techniques and skills that are transferable in every single title. And I find that extremely compelling in a different way than every time I sit down for a heavier Euro game, I'm like, I have no idea how to play this. And this first go, probably these first 3-4 goes are going to be just a blind kind of exploration, which is its own kind of fun, and I'll give it that. But what I've liked is the more I play 18xx, the more I can jump into a new title, have that excitement of an exploration of something new, while feeling like semi-competent, semi-confident that I'm able to employ some long-term strategies, which is like that other part of us gamers that there's a rush going on there, you know?
Yeah. What you've described, I've heard people describe of the age of Steam.
Yes.
Where it's a system, and then, I mean, how many maps do they have now? In like the hundreds kind of thing. So yeah, that's Age of Steam. I am so glad it's hard to find game because
you'd bite deep.
Oh yeah, the hook could set really deep and then just pull, right?
Yeah.
Ryan.
Oh man. Okay, so I get one more.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to touch on a few of the games that I did play, and then I'm going to dive deep into one of them. Like I got lots of plays in this summer. Like my wife and I discovered like Istanbul Das Warfenspiel, which is the dice game. We've absolutely been loving that
one with you. Yeah, it's a great game. Yeah.
I managed to get to the table a few times. Founders of Gloomhaven.
Oh,
that prequel to Gloomhaven. It's a fantastic little city building game. Managed to get a couple games of Arkwright in.
Oh yeah, I played one of those with you, Luke. That's the one you missed out on.
I know.
My regular gaming group, we've been continuing our Pandemic Legacy Season 2 campaign. My wife just recently got me for our anniversary. I got Arkham Horror, the card game.
Oh, I saw you putting stuff on Twitter. Yeah.
But the one that bit me really big this summer that I managed to get the most plays in was the new collectible card game, Dragon Ball Super.
All right, here comes the addiction, people.
Well, I'm not going to take a lot of time about it because it's a niche. I haven't been part of a collectible card game in a really, really long time, like since my university days when I used to play Magic the Gathering. And then I got out of that scene a little bit, and then I saw fads and trends come in. They still exist, like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. Now Dragon Ball, of course, based off the very popular anime and manga series out of Japan. Now they have a card game. It's only about a year and a half old now, and I don't know. I just like the synergy that they've created with the cards. It's a very young game right now, so it's very vulnerable right now. They're doing a lot of things to fix the game. So it's just like your basic collectible card game where you have to buy booster packs and booster boxes, and some cards are more rare than others, and some are like super rare, some are really, and some cards are more powerful, and you build a deck of 50 cards. What's unique about this one too is that you have like a leader card. You have a guy, you control a character. They've got some sort of special ability. And then what you're trying to do is with your cards, you're just trying to knock your opponent down from 8 life down to 0 life. Now, unlike like Magic the Gathering, in Dragon Ball Super, there's no like energy, but there is. Every card can either be used as its ability or it can be used as its as an energy. You charge it as a card. So you've pretty much said for the rest of the game, this card is useless to me, other than I can use it to play other cards, which I thought was actually really, really kind of cool and really kind of neat. I'm just gonna say, like, I played this a ton. I've got a whole bunch of decks built. I actually can proudly say that I own every single card in the game.
That's right.
As of right now. I actually own 4 copies of every card in the game because to build a standard deck, you can incorporate up to 4 cards of a certain type. And so I actually own 4 of every single card that's been released so far. So it's bit me hard. So I can build any deck that I want.
Well,
which I love.
And you cannonballed so deep into this pool that you are a sanctioned judge.
Yeah, I took the judge exam so I can judge like regional events and host my own tournaments and all those kind of jazz. And I get special bonuses and prizes because I can do that kind of thing. And wow. We've been hosting tournaments regularly at Amazing Stories here in Saskatoon now. And we started building quite a nice community. There's about 12 active players right now, and we've been dragging more and more people into this community.
Yeah, that's solid.
Which is really good for a collectible card game that is so young. You need to build a community around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's new sets just coming out later this month too. They're supposed to be. We have some real balance issues right now in the game. There's people have lashed on that. There's like 3 or 4 leader cards that are way overpowered.
Yeah.
And you can build a deck around it. And you can pretty much, if you build one of these decks, you just go on YouTube, found somebody who's built one. If you can build it yourself, you can win the game pretty much. So until they've corrected some of these balance issues, it's probably going to stay very fragile right now.
But you've indicated that they are on top of that and they are attempting to do these repairs. So to me, that's
like Magic the Gathering in the very, like they're going to start doing things like we're going to start seeing certain sets are going to be like not tournament legal anymore. Like if you have cards from this particular early set, you can't use those anymore. You can only use these certain sets. So they're going to start blocking it off.
I've heard the same rule scenarios with L5R.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I love that one too.
Did I hit another nerve?
That one I haven't played as much because that one's such a
neglected your L5R.
Yeah, that one just usually ends up being me playing by myself against myself type of deal. But that's such a fantastic game. But Dragon Ball Super, and this is just because it's nostalgia for me too, as this is something that I absolutely adored when I was a kid, and in my early and late teens. Like it was just that, hey, Dragon Ball's on, Dragon Ball Z, Ball.
Because you told me that you have this connection with the IP, and you've got all the cards and the character. Has their approach to this IP, does it get your approval? Like, did they do a good job with the?
Yeah, they did actually really good, because one of the neat mechanics of the game is that your leader card has 2 sides. There's like a standard side, and then if you get beaten up enough, you can call what they call awaken. You flip your card over, and now you can really powerful. Like just like in the show, they keep getting beat up more and more. They keep getting shots after shots until they just awaken with rage and anger, and then they become like super powerful.
Go into berserker mode.
And so then you flip this card over, you become ultra powerful. Now you can actually do more things usually, and it's a really neat game. I always say that it's at a really good stage right now, that if you're interested in Dragon Ball and you're interested in collectible card games, it's at a really good entry point right now. There's not that many. Like when I say like I own all the cards in the game, like we're talking about there's less than 1,000 cards right now, which is a very small.
For those of you that didn't see that, I just about fell out of my chair.
but it's true. Like for a collectible card game, for the pool of cards to be less than 1,000, it's very young.
Right. Entry points are important with that kind of thing. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they did a really good job with their starter sets. So you can just buy a starter deck of cards, and they're really good for getting people to learn the game and get off the ground running and playing the game too. So Dragon Ball Super, I've played it a bazillion times. Actually, Norman, you even see me. I play it at school with my students too.
Oh yeah, the Kingpin. Enter Mr. Rao with the deck. The turn 1K deck?
T1K, T2K, turn 1. I can kill you in turn 1, or I can kill you in turn 2.
Man, that just sounds like a bunch of good fellas.
It's those decks are the example of the meta is way too fast right now. It needs some balancing issues. Things need to be good because no one wants to watch somebody take a turn for 20 minutes and then just end the game because they hadn't got a chance to play yet.
Yeah.
So, well, I love hearing that you're developing this community here, Ryan. I think that's so cool.
What I love the most. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been meeting Thursday nights regularly just to play, and then usually Saturdays have been tournament days.
Cool.
And so it's
been
that's really good.
That's fantastic, man. I'm trying to not have the segue into mine because it's gorilla time, I think.
Oh.
You guys ready for gorilla time?
For the man who puts down that he says, I will never play Splendor.
No. It's like flip a coin. That's about as what Splendor is to me.
But what are you gonna tell me you've played?
Well, last week we played El Grande. No, wait, that's not the game you're waiting for. What I will do,
I know you like El Grande. Yeah, that's not new news.
I like your thing where you just kind of popped off a couple because that got the brain going, and then I'll left hook you with the game I'm going to talk about. So, Dragon Castle, played a lot of that with my wife because she absolutely loves that tile system. It's so the mahjong tile system of that game is so fun. It's so smooth. It's one of these. What's the capstone phrase again? It's simply complex. Yeah. Quicks. With my kids, we play the roll and write quicks game. Love it. I mean, it's so much fun. You and I, Ryan, we had your exposure to one of my new favorite companies again. I talked about what's your game, but I'm turning into a GMT fanboy, and we played Welcome to Centerville.
That was a really interesting game.
Yeah,
that was really neat.
You were kind of I don't know if I like it or don't like it yet, and I told you gotta play it again, right? Your brain will click and it'll go.
And that was the thing. That was the thing too. I realized in that game that when you make your dice rolls, I know there's options that you can use. I don't think that I was doing everything optimally on my turns that I could have been doing.
Yeah, well, it was your first game. You were learning it. The best way.
I kept feeling that I was getting screwed over by the dice rolls.
But it was that.
But I know that's not the case because
do what the dice give you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And have you played it, Luke?
No, I know that's a Chad Jensen design, which
who's Dominant Species,
Oh yeah, he's combat commander. That's like this guy is so diverse. He's one of those. He's like that, like Vlada Chivadl kind of for the war game world. Like you can do anything. It seems.
So and that's what basically drew me towards this game, and the roll and I call it a roll and write because from my own perspective. You're rolling these dice Yahtzee style, you're locking them, and then instead of writing it on a pad, you're putting cubes on the board. So you're basically writing on the board with the cubes that you have compared to the results of your dice. I had so much fun with it. There's so many different areas you can play with. I had also the chance to play Hannibal. Curtis brought Hannibal over, and what a fun game. It was deep. It was one of those games where I think it took us 4 hours and it didn't even feel like it. It was every decision had a positive or severe negative consequence. It was so much fun.
Norm.
What?
You're beating around the bush. I'm beating around the bush.
Okay, one more, and then I'll get to the gorilla. La Granja. Ryan.
La Granja.
As La Granja, one of these it's a Euro game driven by.
If Ove Rosenberg and Stefan Feld had a love child,
it would be this game.
You get La Granja.
The card. There's 4 different things you can do with the card. There's
you're beating around the bush again.
I'm beating around the bush. Yeah, I know. Okay, I admit it. I have a crush on a little kind of relationship with Century Spice Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard people say, "Oh, it's Splendor but better," and it's not Splendor. It has nothing to do with Splendor. Splendor sucks.
That's a whole nother conjecture. I could chew your ear off right now, but I'll let you have your moment.
You'll let me get away with this one. But Century Spice Road, it is resource exchange, recipe kind of building to get a card that gets you victory points. The person who gets who completes the 5, I believe, contracts triggers the end of the game. And I mean, okay, I admit it. I see the resemblance to Splendor, but it's sort of like Splendor's this little child that runs around with the arms flailing and bumps into walls. And Century Spice Road is,
oh my gosh,
Century Spice Road is a mature perspective of this game, and it actually has a legitimate kind of theme.
Well, you could really paste any theme onto this really nifty little puzzle that the game presents itself to be. But
I think what I like, I mean, I'll poo-poo on Splendor, but what I like about Centuries is the cards. How it reminded me of London Second Edition, where you're engine building. You're trying to get this with the minimum amount of cards, because it takes an action to take a card from the market to put it in your hand to create this synergy of upgrading your resources to claim these contracts. And I've noticed that if you get a nice big hand of options, well, you've now used these actions to get cards where you could be upgrading resources or exchanging resources or claiming contracts. So as embarrassed as I am to say, I still have so much fun with this game, and it prompted me to get the second edition, which was Eastern Waters. And I'm
Eastern Wonders.
Wonders, yes. Sorry. Well, it's got a water theme, right? It's got a water theme.
It is not a second edition, it's the sequel.
Did I say second edition?
Yeah, you're getting tired.
I'm just so caught in the embarrassment that I poo-poo on Splendor, and for some reason, this game has basically turned me into like a love-struck child.
I will agree that Century Spice Road does take it to another next level with this engine building idea of these cards. You're taking these cards, you're playing them down to convert your resources until you get that perfect mixture, so that you can finally turn them in for points. Splendor doesn't have that aspect. Splendor is the opposite of you're just keep collecting resources until you can just collect resources more efficiently until you complete certain recipes and collect points and stuff like that. But Century Spice Road is a really nifty little design in that card play. And then I like the way that Eastern Wonders now does it with the now it's almost like a pick up and deliver without the pick up and delivering, if that makes any sense.
It had such an intelligent but simple, streamlined, not variant, but perspective on that same resource exchange contract fulfillment.
Now you're moving a boat around the seas,
and it's kind of an area control too. And you got to drop off your outposts to clear your player board to get those victory points, right? So, from what I've understood is that there's the third game of that series that cleverly, like the first game, Century Spice Road, the box cover image art is really nice, and then you get the second in the series, and you put them together, and you have this continual mural. And the third game that's coming in,
third one, third one. They haven't announced what the name is yet. Apparently, once all three of them,
different mechanism too. But
once all three are done, you'll be able to. There's going to be some sort of rule set where you can actually combine all three games into one giant game.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of neat.
So, Luke, have you? Again, I know you're 18xx, and I know This is like slumming it in the light game category. But what's your take on this?
It sounds interesting. I'm honestly always up for something that's got some clever and smooth gameplay, and this sounds like it has it in spades. So,
and it plays fast.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's smooth and fast.
That's equally appealing to me. Like, yeah, the fast kind of smooth game. I think of like Reiner Knizia classics there in that regard. Like your 45-minute, raw, or I love a Rongo from
Medici and
these are great.
Talk another 20 minutes. He is Reiner fan.
Okay, well let's save that. That's a whole episode. Let's do Knizia auction games. Done. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Just to add on the way out,
art, didn't you?
I picked up modern art. Ooh. And I have never been a fan of auctions because sometimes they're just punch in the face time, right? But this one has 5 different auctions, and right away I thought, okay, I'm not a big fan of auctions, so show me this game that has a legitimate designer with huge credentials approaching an auction game like I've never seen anybody approach an auction game. And that's what I'm going to say about that.
I'm excited for Yellow and Yangtze.
Yeah, I've been tracking that one a bit too.
Oh,
all right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? This is a good segue.
Cut me off.
Yeah. No, this is a good segue because just like every, we're going to transition into the closing part, but just like every new year, everybody has New Year's resolutions. So, in this new season of Cardboard Conjecture, we're going to have we're board game season resolutions. So, just like New Year's resolutions, what are you going to try to do this year that you've done differently than last year, Ryan?
So my big thing is that I want to be more interactive with our audience of like one listener.
Yeah. Oh, here's my joke, because we have this ongoing joke about our one listener. I think I've given him a name, Juan.
Juan.
He's our Juan listener. I'm here all week. Try the veal. All right, so back to you, Ryan.
So I just want to be a little bit more interactive. I'm going to be a little bit more visible on Twitter. I'm going to be doing like polls, like of what like games that I've been playing. What do they want to hear about? I've got one that's going right now. I've got 4 options on Twitter of what people are like right now. Founders of Gloomhaven is like taking off.
I voted
if they want to hear my thought. They want to hear my thoughts about on that. I'm going to try to keep up to date with our Board Game Geek Guild. Now, if I was a more well-prepared person, I would have actually had the guild number ahead of time.
3039. Guild number perfect. 3039.
Rolls off the tongue beautifully. So that's my goal, is just to be a little bit more interactive with our audience.
All right. Now, do you have a secondary one as regards to types of games that you want to explore, or because as we said, our gaming starts to become refined, our tastes start to shift and stuff. So
well, I'm still probably going to kind of represent that cult of the new aspect of our podcast. My goal is probably to start plowing through these millions of Kickstarter games that are showing up at my door that have remained in shrink wrap.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Like I've got Rise of Tribes, I've got Minerva, I've got, oh my gosh, Tiny Epic Zombies just came. Heroes of Land, Sea, and Air. No, I haven't played that yet.
Man. All right. Well, those are 2 good resolutions. Luke, I'm going to pitch this one to you now. Do you have some board gaming resolutions for this year?
I think I want to keep on the pace that I've had in summer. I want to continue to dive deeper into classics. Like we were talking about Knizia. I want to find those classics also that I haven't played, and I want to table them. Dominant Species, top of the list, right there. Okay. Tigris and Euphrates, never played it, so that's why I'm also curious of the Yellow and Yangtze.
Come on over.
I've never played.
Never played El Grande. I'm just throwing this out there.
We have to fix that.
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of black holes in my gaming experience that I'd like to fill, and if they hit the right buttons, I want to dive deep into those things.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
I'm interested in games worthy of study right now. That's kind of where I'm going, and of course that includes 18xx. with 18xx, my collection's growing ever so slightly. But I want to continue getting those ones that are sort of surfacing to the top, even within this little niche, because there are some that are just fabulous, absolutely fabulous. So, yeah, that's kind of my gaming, resolution, I suppose.
Now, same thing with Ryan. Is there a spectrum of the cardboard genre that you kind of want to have a quick glance at, or maybe test the waters that you've like you had said, the escape room stuff? That
I would love to.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, Ryan, go right ahead.
No, like my big thing right now has been campaign style games and things that take multiple sessions in order to complete like a story arc or something like that. Like Arkham Horror, the card game, has really drawn my attention into that big story narrative, and you can play it over as a series of campaign. I got the Scythe expansion, Rise of Fenris, that is meant to be played over an 8-game campaign. I want to explore into that. I want to get Star Wars Imperial Assault back to the table.
So this is funny because I hear a lot of people saying, "Okay, I've got my regular game night on this night, and I got this thing on this night. I need to create a campaign night because I have to do some right."
and I still need to finish Gloomhaven. I haven't finished Gloomhaven yet.
Okay, pitching it back to Luke. Genres or areas that you want to, and we left off with the whole escape room stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, Ryan, what you were talking about with, I'll throw detective in there as well. That stuff interests me. I've been always on the edge. I think it's like, we only have so much time often. I'm a dad of 2 little ones, and it's like the evening time. What do I choose? What do I choose to do? And I'd say I probably could get out of my rut also. As much as I'm saying diving deeper into classics and games worthy of study, I would love to actually have that different kind of more I'm just fully present in an experience kind of game, like an escape room or a detective piece. And I think that's something that would go over well with like my wife and another couple or something like that. And that's something I'd love to do.
Yeah, that's what we found. What we found is the big success of the game. They're like, my wife is not a gamer per se, and couples that we hang out with don't play like games, hobby games, or anything. But when I introduce this idea of this escape room, it seems to reach a large group of people, which is I find that's very interesting, that this idea.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of observing behavior, because to a lot of the times it's so intriguing to see how a game can pull the strings of certain people's behavior and certain people's engagement with challenge. I love it. I mean, and that's that teacher part of me I love watching the students reach these epiphany moments or reach these eureka moments and go, right. And sit there and think watch them and go, there you go. Now you've made the connection. And now you're never going to forget how you came to create that synaptic connection of this equals that, or this cause of this effect. So yeah, absolutely. For me, New Year's resolution, I want to play the games that are on my shelf that I haven't played yet.
Your shelf of shame.
I'm not shameful of it, but it's just sort of like, I gotta slow down my ADD brain when it comes to the new stuff on the shelf. It's like, I need it, I want it, I have to have it, and then put it right beside the one that's still in shrink wrap and go, I feel bad because I good old Catholic. I feel guilty because I'm neglecting this game that I haven't even popped the shrink wrap off.
That meme that was going around where it's like, I have finally realized that buying board games and playing board games are two completely separate hobbies.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So yeah. So, and also, I mean, we had said it, it recurred through the whole podcast about get back to the games that need more playtime, that need more exploration, need more. I want to try this strategy. I want to try that strategy, and I mean, it comes down to and I am like both of you guys have kids, and it's that situation of, well, I could go back to this game and explore, but there's this game on the shelf calling me, time to play, right? And So I just want to be a good board game owner and make sure they all have time on this. Our little Mr. Rogers segment. So that's the one big one for me. And I think the second one for me is, and again, it's so convenient that Luke is here. I want to start playing 18xx maybe.
Let's do it.
I don't know. I'm scared. I'm so scared, man. It's sort of like, okay, stand on the highway while all this traffic's going and like run. It's like
I'm seeing like a an initiation week kind of thing that like they do at college here. So I think we've got a week or two of just like hitting those.
I'll either come out of it looking, like I went to. Don't take this the wrong way, 18xxers, that I went to a cult meeting and I came out and I bought into the whole, yay, no more Euros. But I can't see that happening. But I think I'm
intrigued with your fear of trying to like dip your toes into this. You're not a brand new gamer. You're able to process new rule sets very, very efficiently and very quickly. This is just another game that you're going to learn.
I think you got the point there. I've had people refer to me learning games, and it's like, well, have you played this game before? No, but just start talking about it and I'll pick it up. I've had some people say, oh yeah, you've got like that Matrix port in the back of your head that was just like download the rules and let's go.
These games got card drafting. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, okay, yeah, I can figure out. I can watch what you're doing and how you're like scratching your chin, thinking about that, and I kind of can interpret what's going on in the game. I've got to the point where I've played enough that I can navigate well through new sets of rules, which brings me to that 18xx, which is like, I mean, even in sports, I've always been attracted to sports, and once I found from my opinion, this elite level sport of field lacrosse, I basically no dip in the toe. I cannonballed in it. I ended up, playing at a high efficient level that I'm so scared that this might be the same thing with 18xx, where my first experience, I might sit back and go, why was I waiting so long to play this game? This is awesome. And Luke, back me up on this one, man.
You know what? I love everything. That was great. there's a lot of excitement brewing here. So yeah, Norm, it's good. 18xx it is honestly nothing to be intimidated by. I find it so much more graspable than your sort of average heavy Euro game. If you can sit down and learn a heavy Euro game in an evening that you're not familiar with, 18xx is no problem.
Okay, well like I mean, I told Curtis, it's like, oh yeah, Arkwright, and he's like, well, if you can absorb this, then you can do 18xx. Quit being scared. And of course,
I think so.
Right.
Totally. Like, Arkwright intimidates me still. So.
Oh yeah. There's. I mean, if people want to like have an image in their head.
I had to teach it, and like I was intimidated trying to teach it, and I was like, at the bare bones of it, it's not a complicated game. There's just a lot of little intricacies. That's all. That's all it ended up being.
So and you know what? With 18xx, like the deeper you go, the more complex titles. It just takes more time to explain things because there's so much more chrome. It's not that there's just details. That's really.
Well, and you had said it. It's a system that is familiar from game to game with different bells and whistles.
Totally.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
guys, this was wonderful.
I think we've pretty much had a good go at episode 1.
There's enough content here for like 5 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
This was a long one, guys.
It was. So I will take a cue that we'll wrap this up and we'll get to the closing part. I want to thank Luke.
Luke and I have got little kids that are going to wake up really, really early.
Oh yeah.
It's painful. Yeah.
And I'm a night owl, so I still got about 2-3 more hours of stuff to do around the house.
Gloomhaven.
Yeah. Oh, it's right behind me.
I can see your little. I can see your little Gloomhaven shelf written behind you.
That right there is my Gloomhaven. Forget the box insert. I just went to the local hardware store and got a wall-mounted bits and bobs storage unit. It's awesome. All right, boys, this was awesome. The hiatus is over. I am so glad that we're getting this season 2 off and going. Ryan, thank you. Luke, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so
that
is another episode of Cardboard Conjecture. Thank you for listening. I'm Norm.
Oh, I'm Ryan.
and I'm Luke.
All right. We'll get that polished. All right, man.
It's late, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.